Okay. Yes. So as I said, without our main function, it is not possible for us to execute the program. So we have to write the main function. See what happens. If I try to run this program without writing any main function, see what is it says for me. Cannot find main method in class P1. So that is what I said. Without main function, you will not be able to see the output or run any program in Java. So yes, let us add the main function. Again, the syntax for our main function. So public static void main, then of course string args. Done. So our main function is ready now. Now we have to write inside the main function what I want in the to be displayed in the output window. So yes, for using the print function, that is for printing anything in the output window. Last time I told you the syntax for that also. System dot out dot println. So this is our output function. So whatever you want to be displayed in the output window, that is as this program's result, whatever you want to display, you have to write it inside this println function only. So here it has to be given within double quotations. So whatever is there inside the double quotation, that is going to get printed for me. So let us just write that also. So this is what I'm going to give. And remember what I told you, every print statement has to end with a semicolon, which is going to be my statement terminator. Right. Now, let us run this. See, whatever we have given here, output window is right here itself. So this part is going to be your coding section, and here itself in the right hand side, the below half, you will be able to see the output of the program. So no matter whatever you are typing, I'm just going to copy this. So I'm just adding another thing. Suppose if you are making any errors, you remember I told you it's a compiler based program. So in case if any error is there, then it will not allow you to run the see the output at all. So unless and until your program is error free, your output is not going to be coming for us. So here we are getting a compilation error. So what is the error? It says I am missing a semicolon. So it says line number 6. So in line number 6, I have not completed it. A semicolon is expected. So yes, you can do the corrections and run the program once again. So now you can see the outputs again. So this is how I will be making use of my online compilers. So just you can type in the program. So the thing what you have to use is the option called as code. So you can also save your files. You can save the file. You can create a folder and you can give the name of the file and you can save it. So I am giving the file name here as p1.java, or let us just create it first. Okay, so go for the create. Sorry, I don't know what. 1 minute. Okay, fine. So let me just save the file. Okay, guys, so I'll find out what this is. So basically, you can create, you can save all the programs, whatever you're doing inside this itself. So everything is going to be saved within your logins. So then, once this program is done, you want to go for a new file. So just go to file and go for the option of new file. So this is another file. So you can type here another program and try to execute it again. And if you want to open any of your previously saved file, then you can just go for the load file option. So here, so here I have just created one folder called a C programming before itself. So under this, the things is there. So you can just load this file. See, this is a file that I have previously created. This is a C programming file. So like this, you can load the file. So first create it. Yes, so I can go for a new folder here. So yes, so go for files, go for new folder, create your new folder, and then we can save the file. There you go. So first step one, always first create your own folders. Then you can, I'm just going to copy this program here. Okay, and I'm going to save this. So see the folder what I have created now, it is there. Then we have to give a file name. So I'm just going to give this as program underscore one. That is going to be file name here. So I'm just going to say create. So file has been successfully created for me. Right, now I can go for a new file. So once this program is done, I want to move on to the next program. So go for file, go for new file. So an empty file will be coming for you where you can move on with the next program. Suppose you want to open any of your previous files, just go for files, go for the load file option. See the program what we have just created, the file folder is there. In that, select the program and click on the load option. So that program is loaded for you. So it is like your workspace where you can actually keep all your files. So everybody has a separate login. So in your login, all these files, whatever programs you're working on, will be maintained properly. Right. So the code is for your code compiler to practice. Practice is topic wise programs. As I told you, once we complete each and every topic, the topic wise programs will be enabled. So it is you to complete all the programs. Right. The next one is we have something called as assessments. So here assessments are kind of like test packs. So yes, you will be having regular assessments also, just to know the progress. Like, okay, you're learning it. So how well are you learning it? So to check the progress, we will be having regular assessments. So that assessments, whenever a test is updated, I will let you know through your WhatsApp group. So then you can go to this assessment tab and you can actually take the test. The test along with the date will be available here. So there you can go and go for open like this. Here I have a Python coding. So like this for you, your topic wise coding will be available. So there you can go and you can open the test and practice it out. Now, once the test is done, of course, we have our dashboard. So the dashboard is going to give you your overall activities. So how you are able to do the program, what is your accuracy level? So how many you have practiced, how many you have completed like this. Your entire course activity will be available here in your dashboard. And then as you can see, we have one more tab here called as courses. So the courses tab will contain materials. The Java materials will be enabled for us. So once everybody's logins is finalized, all these things you will be getting. So practice is topic wise practice program. Code is for the code compiler where you can go and you can practice your own codes. Courses is the Java materials. That is the material what I am showing you in the class. So this is my own material. So whatever the material I use in this in explaining the concepts to you, so those materials also will be available to you under this tab of courses. And of course, I told you about the assessments. So this is the things what you will be getting under this Instax login of yours. So as I said, for those who are not having your logins, so kindly ping me after your classes. So I will see what is the situation and I will try to arrange your logins for you also. Yes, I have recorded the sessions. I am recording. Yeah, thank you for reminding. And I'm really very sorry you have to bear with my voice today. I'm having a very bad cold. Yes. So the previous class where we stopped, we saw how to create a class, we saw how to create a main function, and then we saw one more thing, right? About our print function. So we also saw how what is the syntax or how to make use of our print function. So as I told you, system dot out dot print ln. Now, please understand this print ln is our function. The remaining thing is a class and an object which we will be dealing with later. I'm not going to go into all these things now. What you have to understand is this print ln. This is what the name of my function is. And now, the question is, what is a function? So, what exactly is a function? I told you that main is a function. I told you this println is a function. So other than println, what other output function I'm having? So I already told you print is an output function. So output function means what? Anything with which you're going to be able to see the program's output. So other than println, I have one more output function which is called as print. So there are two output functions available for us for printing our output. So what are the two functions? One is called as print ln, other one is called as just print. Now what is this ln? What is the difference between this function and this function? First, let me understand that. Then I will tell you about the concepts. Right, let us go to our program. Now, the same program I'm going to run using the print function. I'm not using the println now. See, I'm just going with the print function. So I am saying system.out.print. See, the syntax is same. Whether you're going to use the println function or whether you're going to use only the print function. The syntax is system. Please remember in system, yes is in capital letter. So system dot out dot your function. So your function name. This is what is the syntax that we have to follow. Right. So now, what is the difference between both? Now let me run this program. I'm just going to go right click and give run file. See, look how my output is coming. Hello world. Same continuous in the same line. Welcome to Java programming. Again, all the best. Everything is getting displayed in a single line. But have you written the program in a single line? No. You are writing the program line by line. But how is it getting printed? It is getting printed in a single line. That is the difference between the print function and the print ln function. So print ln means every output statement will be printed in a new line. Say for example, now same program, we are going to work it out with ln. Look at the output difference now. I am just going to say ln and I'm going to run this program. Again, right click and give run file. Look at the output now. So hello world in a separate line. Welcome to Java programming separate line. All the best in a separate line. So that is the primary difference between the print ln function and the print function. Both are doing the same work. Both the functions are going to be doing the same work for me. And what is that work? That work is to print the output in the output window. But how it is going to do the work, that is where the difference is for me. Okay, that is where the difference is going to be coming for me. Right. Okay. Now, as I told you, we are going to be talking like what is this functions? What is a function? Please remember, in Java, the term function is also known as, also called as methods. So this word terminology functions, we can also refer to them as methods. So when I say methods or when I'm using the term function, both means I am talking about the same thing. Okay, so that is just an interchangeable terminology. Right. So now, what is the purpose of this function or what is this functions? So functions are created for the purpose of reusability. So what is the main concept of a function is reusability. Now, what is this purpose? What is this reusability? Okay, let us try to understand this with a very, very simple example. Okay, imagine you are going to create a program. So our task is we are going to create a program, and within that program, okay, inside of this program, there are 4 or 5 different places. See, the program may be a very big program. So inside that program, some 5 or 6 different places, you have to add 2 numbers. You have to find out, you have to ask the user to enter 2 numbers, and you have to add them and you have to print them. That is the task. So what you have to do in different places of the program. So let us say program is having some 100 lines of code. So in line 3, you have to do this. In line 20, you have to do this. In line 40 again. Then in line 70. So what is the task given to you? Add 2 numbers. So add 2 numbers. First read 2 numbers. Get 2 numbers. Then add them and then print the result. This is the task. So for doing this, how to do this? So let us write a code. So first thing, I'm just going to write a code for it. Don't worry if you don't understand it, it's different. So first thing, I'm going to declare 2 variables. Then I'm going to get the value for the first one. I'm going to get the value for the second one. Okay, then I'm going to say sum is equal to a plus b. Then I have to print. So then I'm going to make use of my system.out.println. Then I'm going to print the value. So this is the number of lines of code to add 2 numbers and to print the result. A very, very basic one I'm doing. Okay, so it takes around 4 or 5 lines of code. Imagine you doing this work in a program some 5 or 6 times. But what will happen? These number of codes, that is 5 lines of code, needs to be repeated. Whenever I have to add 2 numbers, this is the same line of code I will be using. So these code has to be repeated 6 times. Same code has to be repeated 6 times in a program. That means I am going to be getting some 30 lines of code. 30 lines of redundant code. Redundant code. Now, what do you mean by this redundant? Redundant or repeated code. So same code I am writing again and again and again. So what is the use of it? Redundancy. So how to avoid this? How to avoid this? That is, write the code only once. Write the code only once. Wherever you want to add 2 numbers, reuse the same code again. So you are required to write the code only once. That is the 5 lines of code only once. So wherever you want to add the 2 numbers, we are going to make reuse the same code again. That is the concept of your functions or methods. So, functions or methods, what is the purpose of it? Reusability. So, the main advantage I get is reusability. What is the other advantage? It avoids redundancy. It avoids redundancy of code. That is, it avoids the repetition of code. Because I am avoiding redundancy, the other advantage I get is program size is becoming small. Program size is decreasing. Imagine instead of 30 lines of code, I'm just going to have 5 lines. So the program size is also getting decreased for us. So that is the advantage of my functions. So functions basically are nothing but a set of code, a set of instructions. So what exactly is a function? A function is nothing but set of instructions that are placed within a named block, that are placed within a named block. What do you mean by this is every function you're creating, you will give a name for that function and you will write the code inside that block. I already told you what is a block. So block is nothing but anything which is there within the open and close curly braces. And classic example, main. So main is a function. So main is a function we are creating. Inside this, we are going to write the code. Inside the main block, we are going to be writing the code for it. Like that. So these are the advantages of my function. So what are the benefits or what are the advantages I get by making use of these functions is these are the advantages. Right. Now, functions are basically two types. Functions are basically of two types. One is predefined, and the other one is user defined. So, the first type is what we call as predefined functions. The second type is user defined functions. Now, what do you mean by predefined? Predefined are also called as built in functions. Built-in functions, that is functions that comes along with the programming language. You are not creating it, it is already there. We are just going to make use of it. For example, println. Did we create println? No, it is already available in Java and we are just going to make use of it. Same way, print. So all these are examples of a predefined or built-in function. So built-in functions are functions that comes along with the programming language. So our first focus is on the built-in functions. We will be looking into different built-in functions first. Right. Then comes the concept of user-defined function. User-defined functions are functions that are created by the programmer. So functions that you are going to create in your program. So according to your program's requirement, you are going to create your own functions. That functions are what we call as a user defined functions, which we will be seeing in the later part of our later part of our course. So initially to start with, we will be concentrating on the predefined functions. Right. So this is the base idea of a function. And please remember, whatever functions you are creating, how will I know that it is a function? How to know that it is a function? So for that, please remember, function is always represented by this open and close parenthesis or the parameters. Okay, this open and close parenthesis. Whenever we are having a function, whenever you are giving a function name, definitely you can see this open and close parameter, parenthesis following it. For example, look how my println is, how my print function is. See how my main function is. It is having this open and close parenthesis. So that is what makes it a function identification. How to identify whether this is a function or not? Function is always accompanied by this open and close parameters. So it is very clear for us to identify which is a function. Okay, so now this gives you a small idea about functions. Right now, coming back to our main. Our main is a user defined function. That is a programmer created function. Why I'm saying that it is programmer created? What code needs to come inside the main is decided by you. You are the one who is writing the code for the main function. So these things should come inside. So that is why I said main is a user defined function. But there is one small change. Whenever we are creating our own functions, we have the capacity to give whatever name we feel like. But for the main, remember what I already told you, we cannot change this name. It always have to be only as main, only in this small case letters. You cannot modify this at all. That is the only difference here with my main. But for all the other functions that you are creating, you can give your own names. But remember to follow the rules. I already told you about the naming convention rules. So whenever you're going to give a name, what are the rules that needs to be followed? We already discussed in the previous class. So we should remember the rules and then give the name according to those rules only. Right. So now, so you know basic idea about a function and you know about our how to create a class, how to create a main. Right. Now let us move on to the next concept. The next concept, what we have is something called as comments. Generally, it is one of the good practices, or I can say even the best practices, to make use of comments in our program. Now, what are these comments? Comments are what we call as non executable statements. So, non executable statements. Now, what do I mean by a non executable? It means that they are not part of our output. Whether you give a comment or whether you don't give a comment, it is not going to affect the program's output in any way. Your program will run the same, it is going to produce the same output. Then, what is the benefit of giving these comments? The comments are for the programmer's benefit. It is not for anything else, it is for the programmer's benefit. It acts as a self explanation of our code. So, that is the main purpose of giving comments, acting as a self explanation for our codes. Yes. Now, what is the advantage of it? Imagine you're working in an office now, you're working in a project. So, tomorrow you're getting a better offer. So, definitely you're going to leave the job and move to a next one. But someone else is going to replace you in your position. So, that person must be able to understand the code that you have written so far, whatever you have worked in the project. So, how he or she is supposed to understand that? Your project, imagine real time projects. Real time projects will have thousands, hundreds, lines of codes, not like this, not like the program that we are writing. So, in that scenario, so bet always the best option is to make use of commands. So wherever we are writing a difficult logic, or wherever you're going to go for a loop, or you're going to go for, you are going to create a function, give a description about that. What are you going to do in it? So that is the purpose of my comments. It is going to act as a documentation. So mainly it is for the documentation purpose. The main idea of a comment is for the documentation purpose. So in Java, there are two types of comments. So one is called as a single line comments and the other one is called as a multi-line comments. So I have something called as a single line comment, and then I have something called as a multi-line comment. So how to write a single line comment? A single line comment slash starts with two slashes like this. Two slashes like this. Then following this, you are going to write some line of code. That's it. So what is going to happen in a single line of code is, as soon as the compiler sees the slashes, it will ignore this line. So non-executable statements ignored by the compilers. So your compiler is not going to check for any syntax or anything. As soon as it sees a comment symbol, it will skip this line and go to the next line. So this is a single line comment. I just need one single line. So I will use this. Then of course I have a multi-line comment. Multi-line in the sense I want to add a big paragraph. I cannot keep on putting the symbol on each and every line, right? So I need another option. That is nothing but my multi-line comments. So how to write a multi-line comment? This is the starting, this is the ending. So within this, you can write how much ever bigger paragraph you want. Something like this. So within this opening and within this closing, we can embed how much ever bigger paragraph we want to write. So that is nothing but our multi-line comments. So these are the two types of comments that we will be making use of in our programs. Right. Say for example, coming back to our code, what we have written here. I am just adding a comment. I'm just saying like this. Whatever you want to feel like writing, you can add. Now run this. You see, is there any change in the output? No. As I told you, comments are non-executable. Whether you write a comment or you don't write a comment, there will be no difference in the program's output. As I said, it is only for the programmer's benefit we are making use of the comments. So this is a single line comment. So each and every line has to start with this. Otherwise, you can use a multi-line comment. This is the opening and this is the closing. So you see here, within this opening and within this closing, you can write whatever you want. How many ever lines you want, you can add. So this is a multi-line comments. Right. So it is always a very good practice to add comments within our program. So when you go to a real-time projects, of course, some of you is already working, so you will be having this idea. So comments are mandatory. What is expected from us? So please have a practice of doing that from now itself. Right. So yes, the next thing. So this is all the basics what we are learning. So classes, functions, what is exactly a function? What about the print functions? And yes. So next topic, what you're going to go for is data types. Next topic, what you are going to do or what you should be knowing to write a small Java program also is nothing but the concept of data types. Now, what is this data type? And what are the different data types I have in Java and how to make use of it. That is what we are going to be looking into now. So concept of data types. So first, data. The word data refers to information. Data means some information. So I am going to gather informations from the user to make use of in my program. That is the base idea. I want to gather the information and make use of it in my program. So the information that I'm going to gather will be of different types. What do I mean by that? For example, I am asking you, can you please tell me your name? Your name is going to be a group of characters. It is going to consist of group of characters. That group of characters, I call it as a string. In a programming language, okay, in a programming language, whenever we are having any group of characters, we call them as a string. So when I ask you for your name, it comes under the category of a string. Okay, now I am asking you, okay, what is your age? So age is always going to be a whole number. Okay, and age is always going to be a whole number. Whole number in the sense there is not going to be any fractional or decimal values. Right, say for example, I'm asking what is your age? What will you say? My age is 15, my age is 20, my age is 30. Will you ever say my age is 20.5? No, we don't use any fractional or decimal values for age. It is always going to be only whole numbers. So, whole numbers in a programming language is called as integers. So, whole numbers we say in our normal terms, but when we specifically talk about programming language, whole numbers are termed as integers. Now, I'm saying, okay, next data, what I want to get from the user is what is his average? What is it? Suppose they are a student. I'm asking, okay, what is your average? What is your sem average? I want to know what is your semester average marks. Now, when I talk about a semester average, then it can have a decimal value. It can be a decimal or a fractional value. That is, I can say, okay, my percentage is 83.2%, 83.4%, 83.7%. So, like that, it may have some fractional or decimal values. That kind of data, we call them as real numbers. We call them as real numbers. So, whenever you're going to have any data based on any fractional or decimal value, in a programming terminology we call them as real numbers. Now I may ask you, okay, what is your gender? When I ask you about a gender, normally what we say, we use a single character. We make use of single character answers. So we say M or F. So represent male or female. Or even if I'm asking you any true or false questions or any yes or no questions, generally what we write yes, Y or N. So that type of single characters, that type comes under, in a programming terminology, we call them as characters. Okay, so we call them as characters. So we have a string, we have integers, we have real numbers, we have character. Okay, what else? Let us say I'm asking you some true or false marriage. Okay, I'm asking what is your marital status? Are you married or not? I'm asking you your status. So this is going to be a true or false value. So what we are going to get, we are going to say true or false. True or false value. In a programming world, we call them as Boolean. Any true or false value is termed as Boolean. Okay, so these are the datas. Each and every data I'm going to collect is coming of different types. Is going to be of different types. So this is what we call as data types. Data type is a way to categorize the information that I am going to get. I'm going to get the information. I want to categorize it according to its type. So, how to do it? Data types help me on that. Now, the question is why I should categorize? Why should I categorize the data? What is the benefit or what is the use of categorizing it? So, for that, I can say one thing for memory, for memory allocation. This classification is important. So why we have to classify the data according to the types is for the purpose of memory allocation. Now, what do I mean by this again? Imagine whatever information I am planning to store will definitely occupy some memory space. You're taking a picture in your camera, that picture occupies some memory space. Right. So, like that, information that I'm going to store definitely will occupy some memory space. I am typing all this information in a notepad. I want to save this. So, for saving this, some KB of file it is going to require, some memory space is required. Same way, information that I am going to store requires memory. How much of memory? Who decides that? How much of memory? Okay, I'm saying save name. Okay, name. How much of memory should be allocated for name? I'm saying age. Okay, how much of memory for age? That is decided based on the data types. So please remember what is the purpose of this data type classification is for memory allocation. Data types decides how much of memory needs to be allocated for each and every information that you are going to be storing within a program. That is the major purpose of this concept. Right. Now, in order to make use of this data type, I should be knowing about one more concept. What is that one more concept? Variables. The other concept that I should be knowing about is called as variables. Now, what is this variables? A variable is a container. A variable is nothing but a container. So it is a container inside which I am going to store my data and keep temporarily. It is not a permanent storage, temporarily. So a variable is nothing but a named container. A variable is a named container. Now, what do you mean by this named container is you are going to give the name for a variable. Remember, variable is an identifier. So you have to give a name for your container. So that is why we are going to call it as a named container. It is used. So what is the purpose of a variable? It is used to store the values temporarily in the memory and keep. Not a permanent storage. It is not always going to be there. Temporarily until my program is running. I want that information to be kept somewhere. So for that purpose only, you are making use of your variables. Right. So now, how to create this container? So for creating this container, again, I have to follow a syntax. Have to follow a syntax. So what is that syntax? First, you have to specify the data type. First, you have to specify the data type. That is, what type of information this container is going to be storing. Is it going to store an integer? Is it going to store a real number? Is it going to store a character? Is it going to store a boolean? What is this container going to store? That is the first information you are supposed to provide to your compilers. So, first data type, then a space, followed by the container name. That is nothing but my variable name, followed by the container name you are going to give. Then equals to, equals to. what is the value you plan to store inside this container. So that value you are going to specify here, then close it with a semicolon. Always any executable statement is going to end with a semicolon. Just like my print, this also is going to be ending with a semicolon. Right, so this is the general syntax of creating a container or creating a variable. So here we are going to create only one single variable, which is going to be of this data type. Okay, and it is going to be holding this value. Now, imagine in your program, you need 10 variables. Should I create everything like this separately? No, you can also do it this way. So, data type, where variable 1, comma, variable 2, comma, variable 3. Like this, you can keep on adding how much ever variable you want. I am saying variable n, then close it, then close it. So this is creating multiple variables at the same time. But remember, all these variables that you're creating will be of the same data type. All these variables will be of this same data type. So this is another way of creating our variables. Right. So now there is one more thing you can do when we are creating our variables. What is that is you can enforce security. I keep telling you this security. You remember access specifiers. Yesterday I told you access specifiers, public. When I was telling you about this public keyword, I mentioned one term called as access specifiers. So access specifiers are a way of enforcing security in our program. That is, who can access your variables. So for that, you can also give a security. That is, before mentioning the data type, you can add the access specifier. You can also create it like this. Access specifier, then followed by the data type, then followed by the variable name. You can create your variables. Right. So now, access specifiers. What are the different access specifiers I have? One you have already seen. That is our public. Public you have already seen. Other than public, what else can I make use of in this place? Of course, I know I can use public. So other than public, what else keyword can I use in this particular place? So other than public, you have something called as private. You have something called as protected. So these are the different access specifiers you are having. I already told you about public. Public means what? No security at all. Anyone can make use of. So public property. Now I have something called as private. Private offers the highest security level. Private is going to give you the highest security level. Okay, what is this private means? Private means you are saying only my class, that is my class in the sense, only the class that you are creating, only that class can make use of this variable. No one else can touch it. That is what you mean by private. It is a private property. See, your house is a private property. Can I say anyone coming and going on the road can come inside my house? No. You select. You select the people. You invite the people who has to come inside your house or not. Like that only private is. So private means you're offering the highest security. You're not going to allow anyone else to touch your variable. It belongs only to you. That is private. Then I have the concept of protected. Protected comes under the inheritance concept. Yes, I can make use of, plus my child classes can make use of. So protected means what? You remember we talked about inheritance. So protected will say when you're creating a variable, only I can make use of that variable or my kids. they can make use of it. That is my child classes. They can make use of it. Like that, giving the security is my protector. So these are the three access specifiers that we can actually give. That is, you can write in this place. Now, what will happen when I don't give any access specifiers? See, I'm not going to write public, private, or protected. I'm not going to give anything here. So, what is going to happen when I do not mention anything? So, then it is going to take it as default. So, when is this default applied? When no access specifier is mentioned. So, when you're not going to mention any access specifiers, you're just simply going to create it like this. Okay, you're going to create it like this. You're not going to mention any access specifiers. Then it is always going to take it as default. So this is automatically considered. Default is automatically considered by your compilers. Now, what is default and what is the role of a default, we'll discuss later. But just get to know for your knowledge right now is when we don't mention any access specifiers, it is going to take it as default. So default is something which you will not write. You will not write. Like for example, if I want to create something as public or private or protected, you have to make use of this keyword. You have to say public, then int a is equal to, like that you have to make use of. But when you are not giving anything, default is automatically added by your compiler. So you cannot make use of this. You cannot create default int a. No, that is not possible. Right. So this is my concept of access specifiers. Again, we will be looking into this in detail. This is just an introduction. So we shall be looking into this in detail in our upcoming sessions again. All right. So now I have now data types. I have now variables. Both the syntaxes I have. So let us create a few variables. First, let us try to understand what are the different data types I am having. So in Java, the fundamental data types, or what I call as primitive data types. Okay, you can call it by the name either fundamental data types, or we refer them as the primitive data types. So in Java, there are totally 8 primitive data types available for us. So totally there are 8 primitive data types in Java. These 8 primitive data types are classified into 4 categories. Totally, there are 8. This 8 is classified into 4 categories. What are the 4 categories? Is first category integers. Category number 2, real numbers. Category number 3, single character. Category number 4, Boolean value, Boolean type. So these are the 4 categories you have. Totally, there are 8 primitive data types. And remember, all the data types are keywords. All the data types you have are keywords. You remember, I told you totally there are 53 keywords. In that 8 keywords, out of that 53, 8 keywords are my data types itself. So, what are those 8 keywords? That is what we are going to see. So, under the category of integers, under this category, you have 4 types. You have 4 types. 4 keywords are there. What are they? Byte, short, int, long. These are the four keywords or the four types I have under integers. Now, under real numbers, I have two types. Under the concept of real numbers, I have two keywords. What are they? Float, double. So, under the category of real numbers, two keywords are available for me. One is float, one is double. So, this is 4, this is 2. So, totally I have 6. Now, under a single character, only one type. Under a single character, only one type. What is that keyword? Char. Name of that keyword? Char. And under the boolean, again only one type. It is called as boolean itself. So now you see totally there are 8 keywords. These 8 are the data types I have in Java, or what we call as the primitive or the fundamental data types. I told you what is data type. It is nothing but the type of information that I am going to store within a variable. And what is the difference? Each and every data type, memory allocation is different, usage is different. So that is why we are having different data types. Right. So byte, short, int, long. These four are integers. I already told you what is an integer. Whole numbers. They are used to store whole numbers without any decimal or fractional values. Now, real numbers, again, we discussed. Remember, these are for floating point. These are for fractional values. Fractional or what we call as a decimal values. Now, single character, as you said, names are just single, one single character I want to store, like M, F, Y, N, like that, one single character I want to store. That is, I will use this data type char. Then, of course, Boolean. Remember what I told you, true or false value. So, for storing the true or false value, I am going to make use of this Boolean type. So, these are the different categories I am having. Now, the important thing is, what did I say? The purpose of a data type is memory allocation. That is what we are going to be seeing. So, when I am going to create a data type as byte, first let us see for integers. Memory allocation. If I am going to create an byte, how much of memory space will be allocated? If I am going to create a short, how much of memory space for that? If it is a long, how much of memory space for that? Then same way for my other data types. So for a float, for a double, for a char, and for a boolean. What is the memory allocation going to be like? First thing, when it is a byte, it is going to occupy 1 byte of data, 1 byte of memory. Please remember 1 byte. Each byte, okay, each byte is equal to 8 bits. Each byte is equal to 8 bits. So this is another calculation you have to remember. So when I talk about the data type byte, it will occupy 1 byte. How much of memory space? Only 1 byte. If I talk about short, short will occupy 2 bytes of memory. That is 16 bits. It is going to occupy 16 bits. So 2 byte of memory is occupied by short. Now, when I talk about integers, so when I talk about an integer, integer is going to occupy 4 bytes of data. 4 bytes of data, 32 bit. So it is going to occupy 32 bit, 4 bytes. Now, coming to long. Long is going to occupy 8 bytes. Long will occupy 8 bytes of data. Float. Float will occupy again 4 bytes. 4 bytes of memory. Double. Double, as the name suggests, double. So 8 bytes. Char. There is a small difference in char. Normally, in other programming languages, people who are familiar with C or C++, char occupies only 1 byte. But in Java, char occupies 2 bytes. 2 bytes of memory is occupied by char. Now, coming to the Boolean. Please remember Boolean. 1 bit, not byte, but 1 bit. See, it is going to store only true or false. True or false is represented in our programming languages as 1 and 0. So only 1 bit of data is necessary for it. So this is the memory allocation. So how much of memory space is decided based on the data type. Now, I want to store a number. I want to store a whole number. So for a whole number, I have four different options. For storing an integer, I have four different options. According to my program's requirement, I can choose this. Okay, which option I want? The most frequently used integer is int. Most frequently used integer is nothing but our int data type. Okay, then of course, next to that, we will be using lot of times long. That is, whenever you are having a very long number, say for example, I want to store the mobile numbers, which is a minimum of 10 digit. So for that, I will be making use of this long data type. So if it is a short number, small numbers, then int is sufficient. So these are the two data types that I will be making use of very often. And then of course, for storing floating point values, that is for fractional or decimal numbers, I am making use of the float and the double data type. Two data types are there. Float occupies 4 bytes. So when you have again a smaller fractional numbers, we will go for float. Same thing, I want a bigger fractional number to be stored. Then I will go for double. And I already told you, single character, you will go for char data type. And for true or false value, we will be going for the Boolean type. So this is the memory allocation. So as I said, based on the data type, memory is allocated for us. Now, coming to back to our variables. What is the syntax I told you? Data type followed by the variable name equals to some value. So now you know what are the data types I'm having. But did you notice one thing? I have not mentioned strings. So how to create if I want to store my name, my email ID, my address, all those are group of data, right? Group of characters. So how to store that kind of values? There is no strings here. So please remember, string is not a primitive data type. String is a class. In Java, string is a class. Okay, so for creating a string, we will be using a different syntax. I'll tell you about that. Right, first, let us create some variables. So I am going to say int age is equal to some value. Then let us say, I told you, let us take a double. So double sem underscore average. Remember, no spaces in between. So this is one variable. Then I'm saying char gender is equal to. So please remember, whenever you are going to give a value for char, you have to enclose it within single quotations. Single quotation like this. Within single quotations, whatever you can give only one single character, and that single character has to be enclosed within single quotes. Right. Next one, as I told you, Boolean. Let us say equals to false. Please remember, true or false must be given in small case letters. Second thing is, don't use any quotations for giving that. If you use a quotation, it will be treated as a string, not as a boolean. So please remember this rule very carefully. Whenever you're going to give true or false, First thing is it has to be there inside small case. Okay, and second thing is don't use any quotations or anything for giving this data. Right, so I have age, I have semester marks, I have gender, I have marital status. Now, I want to give a name. Without name, nothing is going to happen. So, how to give a name? So, for a name, you will say string. So, directly give this string followed by the variable name. That is followed by the container. What you have to give? I'm saying name equals to. Remember, whenever you are going to give a group of values, it has to be enclosed within double quotations. I am giving the name like this. So within double quotations, you are supposed to give the name, and of course, it ends with a semicolon. So let us put this inside a program. I'm just going to copy all this and I'm going to put it inside a program. So let me create a new program. One second, let me use my so I'm just using my ID itself for instance and go for codes. So here select the language and then I'm going to first thing is yes, it is already in a new file. So remember whenever you're going to create a file, so public class class name. So I'm going to give this as data types underscore one. That is the name of my program that I'm going to give. Inside this, remember our main function. So public static void main string args. Then now I am pasting all the variables that I have created. Now I am adding a comment also. Variable creation. Like that, I am adding a comment. Now I am running this program. I'm going to execute this. See, are we getting any output? No. Why? There is no print statement. So as long as there is no print statement, nothing is going to get printed in the output window. But look, there is no error also. That means whatever you have created here, it's all syntactically correct. There is absolutely no errors here. Now, I want to print the value of these variables. How to do that? Let us say printing the variables values. I'm writing a comment like this. Then I'm using the syntax system dot out dot println. So what is that I want to print? I want to print the name. So I'm just going to put it, end it with a semicolon. So first print statement. Now second print statement, third, fourth, fifth. Change the variable names inside. So name, age, sem average, gender, and the marital status. All the variable names I have mentioned. Now let me run this. See what is the output I'm getting. So whatever the variables value is there inside. So whenever you want to print the variable, what you're going to do? You are going to just mention the variable name. So the print function, what it will do? Whatever is the value stored inside that variable, that is going to be printed for us in the output window. That's it. So simple, creating different variables and printing the values of those variables. So this time you know how to create a variables, what are the different data types I have, how to make use of them, and how to print them. So you want, I can even save this file. So I'm going to select it and I am saving it with the name also. Done. So this is how I will be working on my programs. Right. So now we know all the data types. Right. Now, next to concept, what you have to know, you have to know about something called as signed and unsigned. You have two words here called as signed and unsigned. So first thing, signed, signed numbers or signed data types. Signed data types means that the data type, the container will have the capacity to store both positive and negative numbers. There is one terminology called as signed. What is the purpose of signed is signed means the variable that you're creating will have the capacity to store both positive numbers and negative numbers also. Unsigned. The term unsigned. Unsigned data types. Unsigned data types means they can store only positive numbers. You cannot store negative numbers inside them. This classification is there in your C language and C++. But in Java, the rule is other than, other than Boolean and char. Other than the Boolean and char. Because Boolean is what? True or false value. Where is the question of negative value in that? And same way char. Char is a single character. Again, there is no concept of negativity over there. So except Boolean and char, all other data types, all other data types are by default, by default signed categories, are default signed. That is your byte, short, int, long, float, double. All of this can store both positive numbers also and it can store negative numbers also. So that is what you mean by this terminology. So all of these comes under the assigned category. Now, unlike your C language or C++, there is no distinction. So everything is of the same type. So that is an important rule you should understand and you should be aware of when you're dealing with your Java. Right. So